Welcome to the Swamp. Today we're taking a look at a game that blends cinematic storytelling, razor-sharp swordplay, and a world so beautiful it makes you forget you're at war. It's a journey through honor, rebellion, and everything in between. But does it live up to the legend? Well, in the wake of its sequel coming out within a few weeks, I decided to go back to the original for the first time and find out what it's all about. My name is Excalligator, and I review games using a category-based system built for survival, open world, and RPG titles. Each category is rated on a scale from 1 to 5, and if something doesn't apply to a specific game, it will not affect the overall score. Now, let's get started. Ghost of Tsushima is a historical fiction story within an open-world action combat game with mild RPG elements. While the story itself and the main character, Jin, is a work of fiction, the setting it is based on is a real historical event that happened roughly 700 years ago. You play as a samurai who was one of the last surviving samurai on the island of Tsushima. You realize that honor-bound combat won't win wars, so you resort to more shady tactics, which blur the lines of your morality and honor. Of course, you could choose to be more honor-bound, run-in sword swinging, or you could choose to sneak around and kill from the shadows. While you can play this game with a below-average computer, it is recommended to have an above-average rig, though personally I recommend even higher-end computers, only if for the fact that you should enjoy this game at the highest quality possible. It's almost a crime not to. The game starts off with a cutscene of all of the samurai of the island readied up to face the Mongol invading force. It forces you right into the combat without any tutorial, at least just yet. Luckily, the AI enemies are tuned down to be dumb as rocks, so you don't really have to worry about being killed or overwhelmed as you flail around with controls to see what does what. Eventually, after the beach battle and a bit more of the story being told, you will unlock a flashback segment where you are formally taught in combat by the ways of the honorable samurai. Though outside of the flashback, Jin is taught on how to be a sneaky rogue by another character. The intro can last a while, but eventually you are thrown into the open world where you can ride out wherever you want at any time with your trusty horse. The intro I'm gonna give a 4.5 out of 5. I felt the delivery and pacing was very good, but the flashback segment I felt needed a bit more time in the training, as I felt that I breezed through it and still felt that I really didn't learn anything. Most of the skills and combat tricks like the stance switching, I learned a lot better on the job. But regardless, let's move on now to the exploration section. The exploration is why I highly recommend a strong graphics card. You need to take in the beauty of this world. There is a lot of variety to the landscape, from vast green grasslands to forests of gold or even pink-leafed trees. The absolute best part is the lack of UI, during non-combat sections at least. There is no minimap, there are no large flashing icons to bumbrail you into your destination. However, that doesn't mean you are guideless. The method of how the game directs you is very clever, and the absolute best thing I've seen from a modern game. The largest pet peeve are those arrows, those large arrows that will point and lead you to your locations, which kind of reduce the immersion and exploration. The way this game does it is the wind. When you are given a target to focus on, or you place down a waypoint to go to, you are not given that large arrow. Instead, the wind will blow in the direction of the target location. Now, it doesn't always blow, which also helps with the immersion, so you don't have lines of wind constantly on your screen. Well, what if you forget what direction the wind had stopped all of a sudden? Well, there is a button for that. You can hit it, and in the case of the PlayStation controller like I used, you can swipe the touchpad and summon the wind once again to remind you of the direction. Only when you are within a few meters of your destination does an arrow finally appear to show you that you had arrived. But besides the looks, what can you do in the world? Well, that is where it gets a bit muddy. On the one hand, things can be very good. On the other hand, you're cucked. What do I mean by that? Well, for an example, the story is to push back the Mongol invaders, right? On the map, you can see a number of many settlements per region of the island that you need to liberate. Some of these locations you can just go to whenever you want and liberate them, which is good. It's open and allows you to do things at your own pace. But at least half of the locations, even just in the first segment of the map, you are not able to liberate when you want, only when you reach the proper quest in order to do so. I had several towns or locations in general where I cleared out all of the Mongols, but it was not considered liberated until later on I found the quest to go and actually do it. I felt like I was backtracked a bit, and it felt bad. This happens in the rest of the map too, but it wasn't as bad in the second and third act. You also have the typical open world collectibles, from fox dens to hot springs, haiku spots, and so on. Each one of these will grow Jin in some way, whether it's increasing his health pool, or awarding talent points, or other progression methods. But it also turns into a run around the map and collect 50 of this in order to 100% the game. Oh, and do it 4 times because there are other things to collect too. It's turning into a modern Ubisoft game at this point. Doing the fox den the first couple of times was cute, but I dreaded finding another one. I got to a point where I just stopped wanting to unlock them because it is boring gameplay. Not to mention the Mongol scrolls and the crickets, which pretty much have nothing to do while collecting them other than number go up. I'm sure you'll get something for collecting all of them, but I couldn't be bothered. Now, one of the world objectives is less in abundance, but more fun, and those are the shrines. Each shrine has a jumping puzzle in order to reach it and claim the reward. While the first few were easy to do, the further in you go into the map, they do get a bit more involved. While I will talk about armor in the PvE section, one in particular is a traveler's outfit, which allows you to uncover the map at a faster rate, as well as giving you indicators of when you are near secrets, from the many collectibles to the progressional areas. For this, I'm going to rate the exploration a 4 out of 5. I took it down a point for the repetitive collectible gameplay, as well as not being able to liberate as many locations unless you find the other quests to do so, but for what it's worth, the world is absolutely beautiful, it's large, and it's very immersive. Now then, the TLDR of the PvE section of this game is that you need to learn the stand stance. This is a term that originated in World of Warcraft, with warriors needing to change their combat stances in order to do certain things. In this game, there are many different stances to take on in order to more easily kill certain enemies, from killing blade masters to another killing brutes or spearmen or shield users, and by not using the right stance, you can still kill them, but the attacks won't be nearly as effective. I think this is perfectly fine, but something which is more of a nitpick and that I don't like is when you try to kill someone with the wrong stance and the game constantly reminds you to change into the correct stance. It would be okay if that was within the first hour or so of the gameplay to remind a new player to do so, but you could be in the end game and it still reminds you, which is annoying. Sometimes I have a ton of sword users and like one spear guy attacking me, so I just want to stay in the one stance and not have to keep switching just to kill that one guy. Now, of course, you do get a variety of enemies often, so stance dancing will be useful regardless. One stance is called the Ghost Stance, and this is your ultimate move. When you unlock it, you can have the ability to go into the Ghost Stance, and if you kill a certain amount of enemies in a row and not take damage, you will have a short period of time to get in free kills on any enemy nearby. Though, while you are building up this Ghost Stance, if you take any damage, it will reset. But once it is activated, all of the enemies will cower in fear of you, so they will not fight back until the stance is over. Now, the combat itself I found pretty easy, whether you assassinate many beforehand or bull rush in to take on the army solo. Most enemies can be easily dodged with your roll because it will give you iframes. This is particularly used against bowmen, who will always give a shout out when they are about to fire, so you don't even need to pay attention to them visually, as you'll hear them shout and then you just hit the dodge button and the arrow will pretty much never hit you. But if you don't roll sometimes, those arrows will hold on to you. While I did say the combat itself is easy, there are some quests where I found myself vastly outnumbered, and I did fail a few times. The situation like this is to use your tools to aid you, from smoke bombs to kunai, black powder bombs, and other things which really help out at the right time. And this kind of leads into the story of using more of the ghost tactics in order to win the war rather than your honorable fighting. Now, bull rushing in and using the samurai way can work, or you could do the more sneaky type and do missions undetected to eliminate all enemies without being seen or to fight them all at once. These mechanics are very similar to Assassin's Creed, I would say. One big difference is that you can't really hide the bodies and you can't pick them up. Luckily, if an enemy sees a dead body, they will only be alerted for a short time before going back to their normal route. Something that I also found really odd is that enemy camps and forts are all segmented into groups. So if you need to liberate a town, you need to do 3 things, be it rescue, destroy supplies, or kill a certain enemy. The 3 objectives will always be separated in a way that the enemies will not communicate with each other. So if you goof up and all of the enemies rush in to bomb rush you, only that group and maybe another group next to it will notice, but everyone else will not notice because they're too far away. And now for this section, the last thing I want to talk about is the armor. There are different types of armor in the game that give different stat bonuses. Now, instead of 60 different armor sets and weapons that most of them won't even matter, this game instead made a small handful of sets that can be upgraded with each of their colors and patterns being changed up as you wish. Each armor set gives a specific bonus for different situations. I've already mentioned the Traveler set to increase the map discovery. You also have the Ronin set for the sneaky gameplay. You have various Samurai armor sets for the head-on combat. There is an Archer's set, and of course you have the Broken Armor set that you start off with. While it looks cool, it gives no stats. And there are even a few hidden armors you can unlock by doing various things in the world. Now, you can also unlock skins for the armor from merchants in the world, or sometimes from quests. Once you obtain it, you can change the skin anytime for free in the menu. This is also the same with your sword. So then, I am going to give the combat a 5 out of 5. While I did have some nitpicks with the combat and engaging the enemies, I found it still to be involved and dynamic enough to allow you to use strategy and fluidly change between the fighting styles. The story delivers itself to you in a variety of ways. Firstly, you have the main story cutscenes, which play at integral parts of the game to push the story forward. All cutscenes, I feel, have great cinematography, as well as great performances from the actors, the motions to the voice acting. Now, besides the main quests, you also have side quests and optional quests. The side quests have to do with the friends that you meet on your journey. Each companion has their own quest and journey to embark on, and by helping them, they will in turn help you on your quest. Then other times, by liberating villages, you can unlock random NPCs who will give you optional quests. Usually they are simple quests, but other times they can take you to new areas of the world. There are also some smaller items you can find in the world that will help expand the lore a small amount. Though this is through one of the collectibles as well as menu tabs in order to help the players find out about the various things that they find. So I'm going to give this section a 5 out of 5. The cutscenes are great, there is plenty of side missions and optional missions. You don't have to do them, but they do expand the story by doing so, and much more ways for the story to deliver itself to you. Now for the story itself, this will be a non-spoiler kind of discussion about it. So, Ghost of Tsushima delivers a grounded emotional story set during the Mongol invasion of feudal Japan. You play as Jin Sakai, a samurai who finds himself torn between tradition, survival in his homeland, and is slowly consumed by war. The story is about more than just battle. It is about identity, honor, and the personal cost of doing what is necessary. As you journey across Tsushima, you'll meet a range of allies and enemies who all will reflect different sides of the conflict, and the choices Jin makes begin to challenge everything he was raised to believe. What makes the narrative shine is how it weaves personal stakes with larger political and cultural tension. It's cinematic without feeling forced, and intimate without losing scale. Overall, I really like how you can feel more into the samurai or the ghost side, even a balance of both, though I think some of your choice is removed, as sometimes it will assume that you go full ghost when you try to stay samurai. Regardless, the story itself is really deep and immersive, and I'm gonna rate it a 5 out of 5. This section is not going to get a rating like it normally would, but instead I'm just going to let you know that the fact that this game is complete is all you really need to know. There was a DLC for this game that you can get in the director's cut, which is what I have. There won't be much more content updates to this game. However, if you do enjoy it, there is a sequel called Ghost of Yotai coming out within the next month or so you can look forward to that. For the last section of this review, I'm going to be talking about the bugs and lag. I didn't really have any issues with the game. Very few times did my frames ever drop. I rarely got stuck on any obstacles. NPCs sometimes would bug out, but it was more rare and not as big of an issue as other open world games. I would say the biggest issue would be sometimes that the foliage in the area would flash in and out and graphically mess up. No matter what the video settings I had set to, it typically ran like this on high or ultra, though a reload of the game would sometimes fix the issue. It had happened to me maybe 3 times during my playthrough, however, and I didn't have any crashing, which is always good. So because of that, I'm gonna rate the section a 4.5 out of 5. The game ran very well and didn't really give me any major or consistent issues. I just dropped it a tiny bit of a point for the flashing foliage and the few times I did drop frames. My overall score for the Ghost of Tsushima is going to be a 4.6 out of 5, damn near a 5 out of 5, with a few nitpicks and issues I had. I would say this game is almost perfect, with the only real issue being the repetitive world content, but the storytelling, the acting, the combat, and everything else is golden. I would highly recommend trying out this game, whether you need to be refreshed yourself for the Ghost of Yotai sequel, or to play it for the very first time. Now then, I'm going to be playing my outro, but I also ask you to stick around until the end for the trailer of my first ever published novel, so check it out. And that is the end of this video. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to subscribe. I'll be diving into more in-depth reviews of open-world sandbox RPG games, including ones no one ever talk about, buried deep in the darkest corners of Steam. Some of them even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. For pure gameplay content, check out my second channel, Excalligator Gaming, where I post full narrated playthroughs, funny shorts, and streams. Do you have a game that you think I should cover next? Drop it in the comments below. Florida Gatorman out.
An epic tale of myth, memory, and the price of peace. One boy stands between the world of men and the world of spirits. When Spanish ships arrive on the shores of Boriken, young Guarocuya, Taino by birth and chosen as a spiritual guardian, is caught between two colliding worlds. As tensions rise and sacred lands come under threat, Guar joins Juan Ponce de Leon on a fateful expedition into the wilds of Florida, where the famed conquistador seeks the legendary Fountain of Youth. But the path is not an easy one. As they venture deeper into an untamed land, Guar must navigate uneasy alliances, cultural rifts, and ancient forces that stir in the dark. Mythical beasts from native lore haunt their journey, testing both the strength of men and the will of spirits. With each step, Guar is torn between loyalty to his people and a fragile hope for peace. And And all the while, the spring waits, hidden, sacred, and fiercely protected.